First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know that this is a very trying time, but our goal tonight is we want to make sure that we provide you with some information that you can use. So we really want to get some feedback from you. After you hear the presentations, let us know, whether it's by email or come up and grab one of us, and let us know whether or not we are answering those questions that you have. Because our main goal is to be able to start prioritizing your needs. I can tell you when Commissioner Latham and I were out driving the district and looking at the particular forest, the people that we came in contact really emphasized that this was the area that we really needed to address. So I want to applaud her for, one, agreeing to head up this committee. It's very important. And she's put together a fabulous panel of experts that can provide you with some information that we believe is going to be useful for the whole rebuilding process. One of the things I do want to emphasize, if there are questions out there in the community, please give us a phone call, because we have our Disaster Assistance Center that's still up and running. Give us a phone call at 444-8301. You can give us a call there, or you can send it by way of an email at bffdac@elpasoco.com. What we want to do is we want to be able to track that information. It's very critical. We have a volunteer coordinator that's going to take your phone call, make sure that it gets sent out to the appropriate subcommittee, it gets logged in, so that we can track that information so that we are providing that response. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I want to turn it over to Commissioner Amy.
Thank you very much. I want to just very briefly go through just a little bit of housekeeping about the meeting tonight and kind of tell you what we're trying to do. We are trying to make this a very, very productive meeting for you and answer your questions with as many experts as we possibly can. So we've got folks here who are actually going to present brief presentations during the first hour, roughly, and then we really want to open it up to questions that you have. And in order to do that, we do have other agencies and experts that are not sitting up here on stage, but are with us in the audience, and they will be able to respond, if necessary, with any of your questions. I want to let you know, we realize that some of you may not have internet access. We have a huge amount of resources online. elpasoco.com is the county website, and it is linking so many different resources and websites for you, the Disaster Assistance Center, Regional Building Department, and others. But if you don't have access, we have tried to bring hard copy materials for you this evening as well. Our health department has put together some resources for you, not only just informational, but we've got some bags back there for ash removal. It is by no means everything that you need. We realize that. We are trying to get a hold of as many supplies as we possibly can. So what we were able to get in for tonight, we're going to distribute, and there will be more coming and more available at the Disaster Assistance Center. And so we're going to try to get at least something in your hands tonight that can help you, and we'll get more in your hands later. So before you leave tonight, please make sure that when you go through the lobby out there, you're picking up these resources. They're very important. These two, the yellow and the green, are extremely important for you at this point, so make sure when you leave, you've got these two flyers with you. We'll speak to these issues as we go along. We also have a sign-up sheet going around on some different clipboards. We would ask you to go ahead and sign in. We don't share this information with any agencies at all, but it's our ability to be able to communicate with you as we have new information coming out, new meetings that are coming up. And so if you would be willing to just go ahead and sign up. I know many of you have already checked in at the Disaster Assistance Center. We'll just cross-check and make sure we've got you so that we can get more information going out to you. We do have volunteer help. I want to emphasize this. If you need volunteer assistance on your property of any kind, please contact us and let us know that. There are a number of agencies, volunteer agencies, that are here to help you, but we need to know that you need the help. So please don't hesitate to reach out. What El Paso County is here to do are a number of things, but most importantly, to connect you with all the different agencies and resources to be able to help speed up and simplify your recovery. I do want to just give my heartfelt thoughts to all of you. This has just been a terrible thing in our community, and yet I have been, as I've gone out and I've done sifting and gone out with Commissioner Glenn and others, you all have an amazing, amazing heart and ability to recover. I've just heard the most amazing stories from so many of you folks. So thank you for that. Thank you for being such a special community. And we're trying to do everything we can to help. So with that, we're going to kick off presentations. During the presentation section of the meeting, we're just going to give you this information, and then we'll finish that and open it up to Q&A. So we're not going to do the Q&A during the presentations. We'll jump into that later. And we do have index cards going around. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight in the meeting, we will take those cards, and you've got to provide your name and number, and we'll get back to you. So if you didn't get it answered, we'll follow up and make sure that you're getting the answers you need. So with that, I want to begin with kind of our section that we're going to call debris removal. We've got the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, and we've got our El Paso County Health, and so we're going to kick it off. Jill Law is our director of the El Paso County Department of Health, El Paso County Health, if that name right, and so she's going to kick us off tonight.
I'm not going to kick you off, but I'm definitely going to go through some broad information. And again, I think many of you have seen some of this as you're walking in, and one of the things that I want to make very clear is this is going to be a very broad-based kind of a global discussion. Many of you, I think, are probably well ahead of looking at the cleaning of your properties already. Some of you may need a little bit more information. We're making supplies available. I already noticed that the N95 masks are gone, and we're going to continue to have more brought into the county. So please know that if you didn't get some of the masks tonight, and Mike, if you want to maybe share with your neighbor until we get more, we've got them coming into the Assistance Center. And I think, are we ready to roll with the PowerPoint, or?
Before you started, can you dim the lights?
You betcha. If we can try to see who is going to help me get that rolling. Great. I think while we're waiting for that, let me go ahead and talk through a little bit of the information that you're going to find out on the tables. We have several different information sheets that you're welcome to take with you. One of the reasons, and of course I know people don't like to see a lot of printed material, but there's been obvious connectivity issues. We wanted to make that available to you by internet. We have it on our webpage. We wanted it by print. We share our links with our partner agencies so you can get to that, but that's why you see us bringing so much of the printed material out here tonight. One of the pieces of information that I think is going to be most pertinent, again, the yellow sheet. Did any of you pick this up on the way in tonight already? This is what I would call the expedited version of ash and debris removal, okay? And so it's what I would consider more the simplified. It's not nearly as detailed as another document that we have out there, which is the Wildfire Cleanup Guide, which has far more detail related to asbestos. And we do have experts today, so when it gets to time for the question and answer, we will have experts from the State Health Department to help answer some of those questions. Part of the reasons that we brought some of these supplies into you, though, is because part of my job as your public health director is to have to look at this in terms of cleanup in the worst case scenario. Some of the houses that you live in are previous to 1987, some were built after. So what we're trying to teach everyone are ways to be the most careful to protect yourself and to protect the environment and ultimately to protect water. And so since it doesn't seem like technology is going to be on my side right at the moment, I'm just going to go right into that discussion about water. When FEMA came in this week, there were some assessments done out in the field with county employees as well as health department employees, and we discovered some things that I'm really going to draw on the community to help us out with. Based on the different ages of the property and the different products that were used, we definitely did see that well caps were either destroyed, missing, damaged, and some melted completely into the ground. So that would have been PVC. I'm asking everyone to please do your very best before you start doing debris removal to make sure that you go out, check the wellhead, because again, one of the things that I need to tell you is I do not have authority to tell a private owner how to regulate the well. I actually don't have that authority, but I'm of the belief that everyone in this room, we all want to protect our aquifer and we want safe water. So the first step would be before you start having that debris removed, make sure you go check that wellhead, and if it is damaged, or if it is missing, or if it is unfortunately melted to the ground, try to come up with a way to get that covered rapidly. These bags that we brought were actually holding asbestos type material. I mean, that could be a really quick fix if you went out and you found out the cap was off your well. Wrap it and duct tape it until you can get a professional, or if you're a person that knows how to do that, until you can get that fixed. We actually have some guidance for you on the table about how to get wellheads recapped. So that information's out there as well. And I guess I'm just going to keep talking and talk us through it in hopes that you'll be able to get that information, and when we get to question and answer, maybe we'll be able to cover a few more of those topics. Sure. Jerry and Roger? And thanks for being patient. Sometimes technology just doesn't go quite the way we planned. So before we really talk about that debris removal, I think we'll have a couple of the experts speak to the issue of the wells, because again, I have yet to have any kind of a discussion with any person in the community that doesn't want to do the right thing in protecting the water. And so we really wanted to just have some experts here to touch on this subject matter, because all of the home losses, and even those homes that had wells that were damaged, again, this is all on aquifer and well-based systems. And so with that, would you like to introduce yourself, and you can just kind of turn it over to you for those expert discussions.
I'm Roger Doak. I'm with the Solid Waste and Materials Management Program at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm Roger Doak, and I am with the Solid Waste and Materials Management Program at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And I'm not a well expert. Somebody else in our health department is expert in that area, but I do work with debris management, and we typically see 3 types of debris associated with wildfires, and that's vegetative debris, and that's either fully consumed down to ash or partially burnt trees, shrubs, things like that. Secondary, we see inert debris, and that's typically non-leachable debris, concrete, brick, things like that. And third is debris that is leachable, and that is a material that we really like to see that go to a landfill, and that needs to be wetted properly. It may contain asbestos, and put in the 6 mil bags. I think they were passing those out here. And we have put together a couple guidance documents, and those are on the table, and I'm happy to answer questions during the Q&A session on that.
And just know, after the Q&A session, we have environmental health specialists here, and we're going to make ourselves available. My background, just so you know, I'm actually a registered nurse, and the environmental health specialists are also here tonight to help answer some of the questions. As your public health director, I'm actually a registered nurse, and I never pretend to be an expert in arenas that I'm not. But again, we're trying to do our best to offer you some ways to tackle these issues and protect not only your own health, but the health of those that are helping to possibly sift and go through this ash and debris with you. That's why we're making those N95 masks available. That's why we've been making some of the supplies available. A couple things that I think I'll give you a quick update on, which is really important, is we've done over 426 water sample tests for your community, and we have had very few concerning results come back. So that's actually really good data. That's something that, if you remember at the first community meeting, I offered to you all to offer that free water testing. And at this point, we've done 426 of those, and we have vaccinated 678 of you within your community for tetanus since this incident started. And we are going to keep continuing to offer those services to you. But again, those detailed questions, I think, on an individual basis, we'll make ourselves available after the question and answer time period. But again, please take all the information that we've made available to you and the supplies. We're going to keep bringing things into the North DAC, which is the Classical Academy, and it's right between Pikes Peak Community College and New Life Church. And that's where we continue to restock with supplies for you to come get, either the N95 masks. I have more bags coming on Monday. We're still offering immunizations there for free. The water testing kits you can get there and return there for free. And absolutely, we'll move on to specific debris removal information.
Hi, my name is Jerry Henderson, also with the Solid Waste and Materials Management Program at the State Health Department. And we know that there's been some 6 mil poly bags passed out here tonight. Those are typically also available at construction supply stores like Ranger, Whitecap, and others. You may find products at Home Depot that may not be large enough for your needs, but some of the larger construction stores should have the size of poly that would fit into a dumpster or a roll-off. There's basically 3 different ways those can be secured once in the dumpster. There's a spray-on adhesive product, which you can also acquire at these stores that works pretty well. You can use the really wide, like 2 3/4 inch, 3 inch duct tape. And you can also use a really strong zip tie or baling wire. Can also be helpful in this application. And I know a lot of folks have lost the well water supply, and because of the concerns about asbestos, the wetting material is necessary, except you have, in extreme extenuating circumstances, you can also contact our Air Pollution Control Division and talk to them about different options, and we can provide you with contacts and phone numbers. In fact, Laura Shumpert with that unit is here tonight to serve as a resource. So with that, I think we'll move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, we're going to jump over to some issues about septics. And so, Mike, do you want to cover that?
My name is Mike McCarthy. I'm with El Paso County Public Health. And there's been a couple of questions about septic systems and what to do if they've been damaged by either a pumper truck or possibly the PVC pipes and things like that stick up above grade have been damaged through fire. I'm prepared to answer those questions. We did have a question that came in today that had to do with is the septic tank okay if it's left for a long period of time? Is there some kind of a calcification problem whereby its non-use becomes a problem? And the answer is it shouldn't. It depends on when the last time really you had your septic tank serviced. And if you've been doing that routinely, which is really the only maintenance that's required of the septic system, unless you're on some kind of a pumping system, is to pump your tank on a semi-routine basis. But what can happen if it sits for a long time is the septic tank's job is to settle things out to the bottom and float things to the top and let the clear effluent go through the middle of the tank, and that's what's supposed to go out to the leach field. Well, if you haven't done that for a while, then that scum layer, especially on top, will start getting very firm. And they can still pump it when a septic pumper comes out to pump it. It's just more of a project. They have to use breaker bars and things like that to break up this thing. You could literally walk across them in some cases. They dry out so much. So, yeah, it's not fun. But the fact is, they don't seal up on you. That clear effluent remains in there, and there's really no issue. So it just becomes a little bit more difficult when it comes time to service it.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll have Mark Gephardt with our Development Services Office, and he'll be able to speak a little bit more to the debris.
Again, Mark Gephardt of Paso County Development Services. Development Service works in conjunction with the Health Department, the State Health Department, and the Solid Waste Department. And the issue tonight really is disposal or on-site disposal of your debris from your house and the foundation and trees. By working in conjunction, you've got some guidance documents out in the handouts, and we put one out there. But I'm just trying to get to the facts, because through the Disaster Recovery Center, we've had a lot of questions, and a lot of people have said, I'm just going to go out and dig a hole and bury it. And what we're here to do is discourage that substantially. There's state guidance, there's state rules, and there are county rules about disposal of the material. The tree material, that's less of an issue for anyone, and we would just ask that it be buried, buried and covered, and that you don't bury it in a place where you're going to affect your neighbor. You don't dig a hole next to the neighbor's property that could collapse or could damage the neighbor's property. Certainly, and Kathy Andrew from the Solid Waste will discuss some of the tree options that end up becoming available. There's a lot of opportunities to save or reuse the trees from the Black Forest rather than just bury them. The second part is you'll have a foundation if your house was burned, or a slab on grade that sits on the property. What do you do with that? The building department will talk a little bit about the ability to reuse foundations, and we have guidance documents relative to that. And we know there are a lot of accessory buildings that had just on slabs, and some of those may be able to be reused. The building department will talk about it. Or you can certainly leave them in place and use them as a basketball court, or a very small tennis court, or an outdoor patio or something like that. If you have to dig up your foundation, well, first, you can technically, by the state guidance documents, leave your foundation in place and cover it up and bury it with some restrictions. And some of those provisions are, you need to be ultimately, for a disposal site, 5 feet above groundwater, put 2 feet of dirt on top of it, provide positive drainage, revegetate it in the end, and perhaps you should tell somebody about it when you sell your property. That becomes your choice. The real big issue is when the house has been removed and the foundation's there and the debris is removed off-site. Some people are asking whether they can just go ahead and dig a hole on site and bury that debris. And we're here, I think, in concert to strongly recommend against that. That is contrary to the state regulations on solid waste, and is contrary to the county's regulations. And what you really should think about is what you're doing to your property in the future, because you probably are obligated to tell whoever buys that property from you that that's there. We're concerned there's a lot of garages, there's a lot of houses. Some houses may have asbestos, garages may have chemicals. Those are not good things to put in the ground when you're on wells in your entire area, because you're affecting yourself and all your neighbors in the future. If a person reads the state guidelines and the county regulations, and these are included in the county's land development code, you can dispose of your own waste on your own property, but there's a very specific engineering process to go through to prove that that's a suitable site and can be managed. You have to do soils and geology reports. You have to get concurrence of the state health and the county health. You have to have a closure plan, how you're going to close the site up. You have to have financial assurances to guarantee that somebody pointed at something.
Just keep talking.
Yeah, just keep talking and maybe we can just go through the slide. I mean, 'cause really you're.
I don't believe mine are in the slide.
You're
Keep
covering
going.
a lot.
You keep going.
Okay. The financial assurance was required by the state health regulations. That's the guarantee that it won't cause problems 20 years from now. Those are all things that, and they also require an environmental covenant on the property that's recorded against the deed. So, just not a good idea to go bury your house on your property. There's efforts, all this effort here is to try to make it as easy as possible to have that removed to an approved solid waste landfill. There are plenty of contractors. I had one in our office today that was bidding on 50 jobs. And he was asking technical details, and he said there's a rumor out in the rumor mill in Black Forest that the county is going to say it's okay to bury it on your own property. And we're saying just the opposite of that. That's a very bad idea to do.
Thank you. That's a good segue to mention. I also heard a rumor that it was going around that the county is going to raise taxes to make up for the loss in property value. Categorically untrue. That's not true. I want to get that out there right away. Do you want to go through anything on here that we didn't cover already, or shall we move on?
I think we should move on, but
Okay.
we can certainly share that at the end.
Okay, very good. And I appreciate, again, also your patience. We're just working through the AV. Thanks to Mountain Springs Church for letting us move over here very quickly. Very glad we did. We would not have been able to fit you all down at the county, so we're thrilled to be out here and thankful to them for allowing us to come out. I'm going to turn now to permitting and Mr. Bob Croft with our Regional Building Department so that he can speak to you a little bit about permitting. And I want to mention that at the county, the Board of County Commissioners had a work session this week where we discussed our land development code and how we can work within our land development code to make things easier, to suspend some things during this time, to make sure that if possible we're suspending, we're waiving, we're bundling, whatever we can do to make this happen quickly. One example would be where our code says that you, before you can have an accessory structure built on your property, your main residence has to be there. Well, obviously, that's not going to work right now for many of you. So we are suspending that so that that rule does not apply. You do not have to have a primary residence on the property in order to build an accessory structure. And so in some cases where you have a foundation that is not badly damaged enough that you can rebuild an accessory structure of some kind, you can go ahead and go through the process to do that without having to wait for that primary residence. Things like that that we're looking at to try to make things easier. So we'll be voting on that officially on Tuesday, discussing a little bit more and discussing parts of the fees related to permits, etc. Also, very quickly before I forget, we do have maps in the back of the room. When you leave, if you want to take a look, there are burn maps back there to give you some perspective, and just take a look if you want to. I just want to remember that resource. Mr. Croft.
Good evening. I'm Bob with the Regional Building Department, and tonight's kind of bittersweet. The bitterness is obviously we're here to talk about things that probably none of us have experienced before. And I want to extend our deepest sympathy from the Regional Building Department. But I also at that same time want to let you know that we at the Regional Building Department are truly committed to getting you back in your house as soon as possible. We're committed to that. We've come up with several scenarios to get building permits and things of that nature. We're working with other outside agencies such as the utilities, the health department, the zoning department from the county, and Black Forest Fire. So I want you to know that we're going to do our very best. So starting with that, Chris Morin, are you here? Chris? Well, there goes that commitment. Chris Morin, who was supposed to be here, is assigned to the Black Forest burn area, is the special recovery specialist. And he is committed to spending the first 2 hours out at the Disaster Recovery Center, and in the next 4 or 5 hours, he's going to be driving around in the forest, stopping and introducing himself, much like if you can remember in the olden days when policemen used to live in a neighborhood and used to walk a beat. He wants to make sure things are done right. He's there to help you. He's been empowered by the building official to make on-the-spot decisions that are going to stand so that you can continue with your work and that you're not held up in any manner. Now, I have to use my Palm Pilot here. So Chris's number is 964-4699. That's 719-964-4699. We also have, and I know this part of the team here is Patty Banger. Patty, will you stand up, please? Patty and I will be over there and will be available for questions afterwards. Patty's the head of the licensing department. So we'll be available. I'll talk about permits. Patty will talk about licensing. So far, believe it or not, people have been asking, I'm sure, lots of people, you, how this event compares with the Waldo or the Mountain Shadows event. And let me just say this, that as far as getting permits, you're way far ahead than Mountain Shadows were. Mountain Shadows probably took about 6 weeks till they got the first permit, and here we are now that your community has already gotten 176 permits. 28 of those are demolition, and the remaining are for re-energizing utilities. And so let me just talk a little bit about that. Those are probably the first 2 permits that you'll be looking to get. The demolition fire debris removal will be exactly for that. It doesn't include removal of trees. It doesn't include the removal of the foundation. It's just to take the residue that was burned during the fire, gather it up in a proper manner as the health department will coach you on, and getting it to the proper site to dispose of it. The second thing is re-energizing your house with the proper utilities, electrical or gas. And we have come up with a zero cost permit for the community for that process up to a point, and I need to make that very clear. So if your house is located and doesn't have any evidence of fire and you're without utilities, you can call up the utility purveyor. They should come out and set your meter and energize your building and outbuildings immediately. If there is some fire and the utility department has a concern, you can go to our website and you can get a request for a compliance inspection for zero cost. We will send out an inspector who will evaluate. If the evaluation is favorable, we'll then issue a meter release to the purveyor and you'll get your utility. And if it is not, then we'll tell you what needs to be done. And in some instances, you'll need to then get a person who is capable of making the proper repairs and pulling the permit at that time. The other permit, of course, is the debris permit, like I said. After that, you'll get into possibly the wrecking permit. Now, a wrecking permit is actually tearing out a structure, such as a foundation, or you have a partially standing building and you need to take it down to the ground, so that would be a wrecking permit. And then after that will be the process to get you building permits, whether it's for your outstructures or whether it's for your single-family dwelling, your house or your home. So that's kind of the permit process. I'll go more into detail, and I want you to, if you would, write down our website address, which is the letters, it's www, then it's PPRBD, Pikes Peak Regional Building Department, .org. When you get to our homepage, you'll see what we call the Black Forest burn area. We don't like to refer to it as the Black Forest because not all the Black Forest was affected. So we're talking about the burn area. And on that, you'll see multiple links as far as licensing, the recovery specialist inspector, the how do you obtain permits will also be linking up to the health department and the Black Forest Fire Department and county zoning. So I ask you to please visit that website, but please remember also this is kind of a fluid document because as we put stuff on and we get new interpretations or new information either from the state or wherever that comes, then we'll have to change that document. So take it for what it is right now, and then there might be some changes. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. We are going to go from here to some of our tree mitigation information, trying to kind of keep us on a little bit of a schedule, and then we'll just open it all up. So I'll begin with Larry Long, our U.S. Forest Service District Forester, to present some information.
I'm Larry Long with the Colorado State Forest Service, not the U.S. Forest Service, that's federal. Common mistake. We're getting a lot, we've been working in the Black Forest for about, I would say probably over 3 decades now, helping people do defensible space and fuel breaks and giving you guys information on insect and disease. Our primary function is to work with private landowners. Right now, we're just being inundated with phone calls, people wanting to know what's going to happen to their trees, people on south of Shoup and south of Burgess wanting to do D-space. I guess I'll answer that one question because I think it'll come up later. is, the one that we're getting the most is my tree going to die? I'll give you just some quick guidelines on that. If the tree is totally black, top to bottom, no needles left, no green needles, it's going to die. That doesn't mean that you need to run out there and cut it down. Ponderosa pine have very deep root systems, and they're going to stand there for a long time. Unless the bole is physically damaged with a cat face or something, that tree is not going to blow over. Actually, it's probably less susceptible to blow over now than when it had green needles on it. If it has any green needles on it, I would tell you, just wait. Don't be in any hurry to cut the tree down. By this time next year, after we get through this growing season, and next year when it flushes out and you start getting those candles coming out, then you're going to have a much better idea if the tree's going to die. It has to go through it. Right now, those trees, those green trees, are in a very tough environment. All that black ground, sun hitting it, it heats up every day, cools off quickly at night. So it's going to take a little bit for those trees to make it through. So a lot depends on how much moisture we get this year. If we get a really good moisture, a really good monsoon season, that's going to help you out a lot. If it's a dry summer, that's going to hurt you a lot. The other issue with the trees is scorching in the crowns. If you've got the trees, they didn't scorch too much on the boles, but the crowns are really brown, again, I would tell you just to hang on and wait and see what's going to happen with it. A lot of those trees are going to flush out. A lot of those trees are going to die. But I think that the key here with the trees, I mean, you guys, you went through all this, you have buildings burned down, you lost houses. Your trees are really secondary now. So, you know, I would just encourage you just to kind of wait and let nature take its course and see what's going to happen with it. I'll give you a phone number. Our office is in Woodland Park. I've got a staff of 5 foresters plus myself. The phone number is 687-2921. Please call us if you have questions. If you would like a site visit, that is a service that we charge for, but the county has graciously purchased 100 site visits for us. You can get certificates at the Disaster Relief Center. Is that correct? And you get one of those certificates, I'll have a forester come down. He'll walk the property with you. We'll give you our best guess. I mean, right now, there's nothing definitive. A lot depends on what happens from here on out. So.
Larry, thank you. Not sure if I gave you a demotion or a promotion there. I apologize. I keep track of everybody. Sincerely, thank you for that information. I'd like to introduce Kathy Andrew next. She is with the county. She is our go-to woman. Kathy's got it going on over at Environmental Health and Hazardous Materials and in our public services. Kathy?
Good evening, my name is Kathy Andrew. I'm with the El Paso County Environmental Division. And I just want to reiterate what has been said here tonight. We want to get you back in your homes as soon as possible. However, we want to make sure that we do it safely. And we want to make sure for the long term, the environment of Black Forest, that we just give you the guidelines of what really needs to be done. And I just would like to reiterate what Jill said. If you have your well, please check your well. That's really the first thing that you need to do. You know, in the burn debris, there could have been herbicides, pesticides, chemicals, those kind of things that could be in the ash, and you really don't want those things down your well in the aquifer. So we really want to encourage you to do that first before you really do any debris removal. As far as the debris removal goes, you know, the big things, the metals, the big things that actually are there that aren't the ash, you certainly can take those to the landfill. We work closely with the landfills here in El Paso County. And if you can take those in your pickup truck if you like, or in your trailer. However, you do need to make sure that you tie and cover those loads. The landfill, the waste management landfill on Glenny Road has been gracious enough to provide a reduced fee for any debris that's coming from the burn area. You will just need to show your debris permit and/or your ID. However, if your load is not tied and covered, you will not be able to receive that discounted charge. It's really important that you do that. As far as the ash goes, again, I just want to reiterate the 6 mil liner that has to be in the roll-offs and to put the ash in, and then it has to be continuously wetted. It's kind of like what we call a burrito wrap, if you will. Some of the things that you might find as far as household hazardous waste, you may find that your propane cylinder survived, or some of your paint cans or something like that. Those cannot go to the landfill. You need to bring those to the household hazardous waste facility. There are recycling directories out there. We did do a small household hazardous waste on site in the Black Forest at Section 16 last Friday. We served 104 customers, and we will plan to do that again here in the near future and on site for all of you, and we'll let you know when that's going to happen. But any of those things that you would consider hazardous waste that are still intact cannot go into either your ash or into your larger debris. It has to come to the household hazardous waste facility. The other thing I just wanted to iterate here about the recycling directory, some of your metals you're actually able to get some money for. I know you think that they are, that even if they're burned, many, and here in the recycling directory are some of the metal dealers here in town who will be willing to come out, and certainly I would encourage you to see if you can get some funds for those metals. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the slash mulch site that we have in Black Forest. Some of you may be familiar with that, and we are open for business. We did a bang-up business last night. It is staffed by volunteers from your community, and what a great program that has been. And truly the mitigation that has taken place in the Black Forest over the years, I truly believe saved some homes for sure. And so the Black Forest site, and we are committed to making sure that we have enough space to take all of your slash from households. We are not open for commercial. We have some limited space, but if you're bringing it from your household, we would encourage you to do that. Information in the recycling directory about that. We're open for regular hours, and we would encourage you to do that. I think that's all for me.
Thank you very much. Want to jump into, we have a presentation, our AV folks back there, if you can pull up that presentation for Dr. Van Alfelt. We have Judy Van Alfelt with us. You all know Dr. Van Alfelt, and she's going to give a brief presentation on some more land mitigation.
Thank you, Commissioner Lathan. Probably most of you know me as, the problem is we don't have anybody here from the church who knows where the switches are. So I'm sorry. Can we get the first item? There's 5 slides. This is number 3, I think. There we go. Okay. Probably most of you know me as the owner of the Black Forest News, but I actually have a PhD in landscape ecology, and I used to be the ecologist of the Medicine Bow National Forest. So I work with both what's on the ground sticking up like trees as well as the vegetation. And Len Langford, Len, would you stand up? Okay. Len is partnering with me in this. He has a master's in silviculture from Yale. And so the two of us are working with Larry Longstaff from the Forest Service and Greg Langer from NRCS to develop what happened to my slide? Best management practices for landscape recovery. And can we back it up, please? I saw that slide before. It's the one that says best management practices for landscape recovery. One more. Can we find the one that has the picture of the aerial photo and blackened trees? I didn't do it. Well, that's a really sensitive machine, isn't it? Anyway, the photograph that you should see on your right, on your left here. Yes. Is an aerial photo, and if we can get that up there. I chose that because it shows the mosaic. There we go. Okay. It shows the mosaic. This is Shoup Road and Black Forest Road, just a little bit off to the edge. But don't worry about where you are here. You can see that there are burn holes where the moonscape is, where there was hot canopy fire, which everything is torched. Okay, then there are areas with scorching of various types. You can see that pretty well in the front, where it should look more yellowish. And then there's also areas that are unburned canopy, but they may have a surface burn below them. And picture on the right shows the moonscape, which many of you are dealing with. Now, when you're looking at your property, it may seem like the whole landscape is a moonscape, but it really isn't. And this kind of pattern is very typical for burns in ponderosa pine forests that happened when there was a lot of wind. And the wind is really what played the game with this. Okay, next slide please on landscape condition. There we go. Okay, so the appearance, if you look at the upper left, you have the unburned landscape. You have surface fire areas where the canopy is green and just the ground is burned and the trees have slipped various amounts from very low to very high. There's understory fire where the mid canopy burned and the trees are scorched, and they'll vary from pretty fried needles that are pretty yellow to some that are still almost green. And then the very blackened fire where it was very hot, 1200 degrees or higher, everything's fried. Now, a lot of people are focusing on the blackened trees because they don't like to look at them. But if we look at the whole landscape and what's best for the whole forest, we must keep mitigating the green areas that didn't burn because they're still liable to burn. The whole southern tier of the forest and all around the edges. And that slash should go to the slash site. Len is working with some folks to try to get some other options for disposing of the black char, so it doesn't have to go to the slash site, and we can find some other ways to dispose of this on a large scale. So the unburned areas have high to extreme fire danger yet, and so if you have a portion of unburned area on your property, you should mitigate that, okay? And if you have friends who are in an unburned area, get them to keep doing that. If you have the green canopy with the surface fire, there's not much potential in the bottom for fire, but the canopy can still burn. And the scorched areas still have a very high potential for canopy fire. So if you have scorched trees, and that's where, as Larry was saying, be conservative about what you take out and let them recover. But those trees should be thinned the same way as if they were green. Okay, you should take out, try to pick the ones that look the best, but remove the others because you want them to lower those fuel loads. And if you have the blackened area, although it doesn't look nice, that's really the safest part for future fire, at least in the near term. And you should take care of hazard trees around where you're working and just leave the rest of it alone for right now. Concentrate on getting yourself recovered. The topography in Black Forest, we have flat uplands, hilly uplands, lower valleys, steep slopes like around Kettle Creek, and then the openings, the dry meadows. They all require different kinds of approaches. And we're working on coming up with very specific things that you should consider. The vegetation here is mainly ponderosa pine with either grasses or kinnikinick, or areas on the west end that have some shrubs. There's scrub oak, choke cherry rose, and so on. Those are all fire-adapted plants, and they will come back. And so then you have to manage them in the future so they don't get too thick. Okay, next slide, please. Next, please. There we go. Okay, that should say landscape preparation. Both the Forest Service, State Forest Service, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service are not recommending seeding or trying to plant trees this year unless it's right around your house where you can water. Okay, it's too late in the season to have good germination of seeds. We don't know what the monsoon's going to do, so as Larry said, we should just wait for the larger areas of the landscape. There will be high disturbance for the surface around the areas that you're doing debris removal on, and those are going to have full-blown reclamation when you get done, seeding and all of that. The rest of the landscape, we should make a major effort not to disturb it a lot. Okay, you've got perennial plants out there that will grow. It's a lot easier to let them grow than to start all over and try to drill seed over for 13,000 acres. Not a good idea. So we want to reduce the fuels in the unburned area as a priority. Allow fire-adapted perennial plants to recover with minimal mechanical disturbance, which means it's not a good idea to take the bulldozer out and knock the trees down, or take the skid steer out and knock the trees down. Try to stay off of it and let it recover. Identify scorched trees to keep. These will be your seed sources in the future. And one of the most important things, if you are cutting, is to leave some roughness on the landscape. Dave Root pointed out to us that in the Hayman fire they had much better seedling survival as well as natural regeneration in areas that had some stumps, some wood deadened down, some vertical snag trees, and so on to make the environment more friendly. Cut the wind down, accumulate snow, and so on. So we'll be developing some standards for you of leaving. You remember the old guys that did the cross-cut saws and the stumps are about this high? Okay, leave some of those. And the ones that you do cut, do want to cut low, cut them all the way flush with the ground. And so you'll have some debris on the landscape, which will be good. So cut them 2 or 3 feet high, keep maybe 30 to 40 per acre. Leave some large tree trunks on the ground, a couple of them, whatever you want, 3 or 4, and keep your favorite character trees. These trees will stay up for a number of years. They'll provide habitat for cavity nesters. They give you something to look at. So, you know, if you've got 15 acres like I do, most of which is blackened, I'll keep my favorite trees and I'll let my perennial plants come back up on their own and just try to keep the disturbance right around my house. Another thing is to try to salvage usable saw timber trees. One recommendation at this point is if you have big trees, cut them 8.5 feet long down to a 10-inch diameter. And Len and I are organizing some ways to pick these up, get them milled, and bring them back to the community so they can be used for building. You can come back as 2x4s, 2x6s, paneling, whatever. Because the wood is still good, you just have to cut the bark off. Do not remove roots. Okay, so you don't need to bulldoze the trees over and take the root rods away. Leave the roots in there. And don't smother the land with the burn char mulch. There's already an unbalance in the carbon-nitrogen ratio, and that's just going to make it worse. So, you know, a little bit of light green mulch from the slash mulch site is okay, but don't bury it. If you've got black crusts, that can be broken up gently with a rake, or if it's pasture and fence, turn some animals in there for a day or 2 and let their hoofs break it up so the water can percolate in, and that'll help a little bit. And if you have a hilly landscape like Peregrine Forest, in Peregrine area, if you fell trees, put some of them across the hill slope. It's called contour felling. And so it acts to help keep the water from gullying down the hill. You can also buy straw wattles, which are those straw rolls that they use along the roads. And if you have gullies, use glue those or water bars to help break the force of the water when you get the monsoons. Another thing is to work together in your neighborhoods to design the result that you want for your landscape and your subdivision. And that was off the bottom. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, scorched tree evaluation. Larry talked about this a little bit. It depends a little bit on tree size, how intense the scorching is, where it is on the tree, and the amount of scorching. Is it the whole tree or part of the tree? The trees see this as an inconvenience. The ponderosas lose the 3-year-old needles this season anyway because they made new ones. And if they're scorched, they'll just lose all the present needles, but they'll make 1 little set of new ones this year, and then next year they'll have 2 sets and then 3 sets. So they just won't grow as fast, but it won't necessarily kill them. So if you'll show the next one, we're almost done. One more slide after this. The candles can tell you a lot. That was the one we were looking at before. There we are. Okay. It's hard for you to see this, I realize, but the trees on this side, although they have some scorching at the bottom, the candles are erect, the needles are coming out evenly all the way around, and those trees are going to be fine. The one on the right, there's 2 kinds of candles. There's some erect ones that have kind of little stunted needles coming out, but they're coming out. And toward the top of it, you see the candles like this. They look like a mohawk. Needles just on one side. Those trees have got problems either in the roots or in the stem with the cambium and the xylem to pull the water up, or the needles themselves are damaged. So those trees are less likely to survive. So in summary, last slide please. As you plan your landscape, having clumps of trees rather than just evenly spaced trees like a tree farm is a better way to go. It's better habitat for egrets. You have less future contiguity in the crowns for spread of fire, more edge, and more diversity because you have openings to the forest. So in summary, this year plant only where you can water, control your noxious weeds early. The Canada thistles and yellow toadflax are already coming back, and give the landscape time to heal. So Len and myself, Dave Root and Greg Lang are going to work on a brochure. We just haven't had time to put it all together yet to have available for you. But just go easy on doing anything except your debris removal right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You gave us information for so long, and I apologize, we're so tight here to get all the information we can. And right now I'd like to ask Jim Riesberg to come on up, please. Jim is from the State Insurance Office. He's going to give very brief information, just very quickly tonight. There is going to be another meeting on Monday evening to speak specifically about insurance, and then again on July 8th. Two very important insurance meetings. And Jim, if you could just give us some brief information here at this moment.
Thank you. Monday night it's going to be at 6:30 at the tent at New Life Church. And we will have several people here from the Division of Insurance, and we will have a lot of information. Some of you have picked that up at the Disaster Recovery Center, but we'll have a lot of information available for you that night. I didn't bring it all with me this evening because of what I saw on the agenda. The Division of Insurance is part of the Department of Regulatory Agencies, and Barbara Kelly, the Executive Director of that department, and all of us, our hearts go out to you. We've made a lot of trips to Colorado Springs in the last year now, and we'd like to come down and enjoy all the tour sites, not just have these kinds of meetings as well. We want to also really congratulate the county commissioners here and everyone in the county who have done such a wonderful job and got the Disaster Assistance Center up and going right away. And they have really worked hard in your behalf. The Division of Insurance has two primary functions. One is we're a regulatory body, so it's our job to regulate the insurance companies in the state of Colorado, approximately 1,500 of them licensed in Colorado, and make sure that they're obeying the statutes and regulations that we have. And the second part is consumer protection. And so we have a good staff in our office. We receive about 2,000 calls per month of people who need help on insurance matters. It's also important to know that we can only do what we have the statutory authority to do. So some people want us to do more than we really can because the law does not permit that. It's also important that you know that we cannot change contracts. We know that many of you did not have insurance, and you are going to have a harder road to hoe. But all of you who have insurance, you have a contract with your insurance company. We do not have the authority do we have statutes in place to change those contracts. So whatever contract you have with your insurance company is the one, however, that we can help you make sure that the insurance company fulfills the obligations that they have in the contract that you have. We can help make sure that that's enforced. It's also important that you know that not all plans are the same. There are several different types of homeowners policies. There are renters policies, there are mobile home policies, trailer policies, modular and condominium policies. And so just because your neighbor says, well, this is what they did for us, it may not be what you can expect for you because you may not have the same type of coverage that they have. I'm sure that all of you have contacted your insurance company by now, or they have contacted you. If not, you want to make sure you make that contact and to file a claim. Even though you don't know exactly what all the damage might be, you need to get that claim filed and you need to get it working. In order to do a good job on working with your adjuster, you need to make sure that you have a copy of your policy. Many of you left your homes and those might have been there. And so make sure that when you make that first contact with your insurance carrier, that you get a copy of your policy so that you have one in your hand when they come out to work with your claim. It's also important that for right now, you make your insurance adjuster one of your very best friends. You need to start out that way as you work with your insurance adjuster, and you need to give them the help that they need. What many people forget, because they start asking you a lot of questions, and what did you lose? Right now, the only people who know exactly what you lost is you. They have no idea. They may possibly have a picture of your home, a description that you have in the policy, but everything else about that home and everything you've added to it and everything that you own that was inside of it, you are the only one who knows what it is, and so you can't recover for that unless you can tell them what it was. So you have to now, I know you have a lot on your mind, but you have to begin thinking about all of the things that you have in your home and begin making a list of those so that you can work with them when they come out. I think it's also important, and sometimes we don't talk enough about it, that you take every advantage and opportunity that you have for the mental health benefits that are being offered here in your community. There are many, many counselors who have come into the county to work with you. And we know the difficulty that this takes on families and the children and all of the other things that you had planned for this summer, trying to work at the same time, and just the grief itself, the grief of loss. You take advantage of those counselors. I hear the stories, and I work with you at the assistance centers, and I just want to give you a big hug and say I know how you feel, but I don't. I have no idea how you feel. You're going through something that's very difficult in your lives, and don't just try to hold it all in, but every time you see an opportunity to get some of that counseling, please take it. We've seen the experience in the last several years of how important, how difficult stress like this is on a marriage as well. So work on all those aspects of your life, not just on getting your house back in order. I think we need to let you know right now the whole country is watching, and so insurance companies will be working much harder than they might have otherwise, particularly because of everything that happened last summer. There are a lot of eyes on the companies right now to see that they come in to this disaster and they do the very best job that they possibly can. On Monday, we'll be here with a good deal more information and some other people who can talk to you. And we have packets. Many of you have already picked up the packet of things you need to consider. So hopefully you can come in on Monday again at 6:30 at the tent at the New Life Church, 11035 Voyager Parkway here in Colorado Springs. And we'll do everything we can to get you off on the right track. And we'll have all the material that you need, because where we really are the most important for you is once you started having those contacts with your adjusters. Yes, that's when the questions start to rise. And are they treating me right? And are they telling me the right things? And what can I expect? And what should I turn in? And this is what they said. Is that really true? We'll give you those 800 numbers and you can call us, and that's where we can really be of service to you and come down to other community meetings that you have to walk you through that process. Insurance companies listen to us when you give us the ability to intervene in your behalf, because we control their license in the state of Colorado. There are 981 licensed carriers in Colorado who write property and casualty service, but generally the top 10 carriers will have about 65 to 80% of the business. So there's 10 or 12 carriers that we will work with extensively. One of them has 201 claims filed with them already out of the 570. So those are the big ones that we want to be sure to work with, and then we begin working with them. We've already given out the word to them that we're expecting them to do some things maybe a little better than they normally would, and to leave longer periods of time than normally they would give. And we've also worked with all your health insurance carriers, because many of you left everything in your medicine cabinets and everything else. And so the health insurance carriers in this area have said that they're waiving those requirements at the pharmacy. You go in and say, hey, I need to have this refilled. They say, well, we just refilled this 2 weeks ago. It's not due yet. They're going to waive all of those so you can get the medicines and the other things that you need. Those are the types of things we could do. Hope to see you on Monday. We'll be able to give you some more help. Thank you for having me tonight.
That's tremendous information. And then again, also in addition to Monday night, July 8th, Woodman Valley Chapel. So I'm going to confirm that. We'll get all that out. We'll push that information out to you. I'm looking for maybe a staff member. We're just working on that meeting. That'll be July 8th. We'll have another insurance meeting with United policyholders. They have some more information to give, another angle, and they've worked very closely here with Waldo Canyon and with Boulder, and have done a tremendous job. We've gotten tremendous feedback from them as well. So be looking for that information for July 8th. Two more very, very brief presentations. I'd like to introduce Gerald with Aspen Point for a very, very brief presentation there, and then we'll have CenturyLink.
Thank you. I actually don't need to say much more than the previous gentleman. I'm with Aspen Point, and we have been working in this community for many years. We partner with many agencies, and the truth is that while you have learned so much tonight and will continue to learn a lot about how to take care of the property and the water and all of these other things, there's another really important thing you need to take care of, and that's yourself, and that's your family, and that's your neighbors. And Aspen Point has worked very closely in this community. We're available to you 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have crisis counselors. This is not mental health therapy. This is a tough situation, and we can help you through it. And we don't take your name, there's no cost. But also what's more important than that is we can link you with a lot of other agencies. It's not just us. So we're a great conduit to a tremendous amount of additional supports in this community. So give us a call, stop at the Disaster Assistance Center, and go to the Aspen Point table and say, this is what I'm looking for. And remember us, because in a month or 2 or 3, something might surface, or something in the family. Give us a call. We're there to help. We're there to support. I have 3 people here tonight in the blue shirts that say Aspen Point. Pull us aside and talk to us if you need to. Thank you. Oh, our phone number. That number, 7 days a week, 777, is 572-6100. And my staff, I also supervise the call center, so my staff can put you in touch with one of our team members. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald. And finally, in terms of the presentations that we want to give you before we open it up to Q&A, we do have CenturyLink with us here today, and we know that we had a meeting this week with our long-range planning committee as we were kicking that planning recovery committee off, and we had a number of questions about CenturyLink. So, Penny, thank you for being here.
I just want to first start off and really tell everyone here how much we care and how sad we are for your losses. I can't even imagine how tough things must be. I want to talk a little bit about what we do when a fire or some kind of a disaster occurs. The first thing we do is to really make sure that we're trying to prevent the damage of facilities so that we can maintain as much communication for our customers as we possibly can. So that's what we did this time as well. We have to make sure we can support the first responders, the county, the command centers, get those circuits up and running and make sure we maintain those facilities so that they can communicate to get the fire put out. So what we do is proactively identify the facilities that are in the line of fire, and believe it or not, on many of them we put up sheetrock. It does protect our facilities and it keeps the electronics from getting smoke damage so that we can maintain those services. In this particular fire, we protected more than 15,000 voice and broadband services for Black Forest and another 19,000 in the monument area because of the direction that the fire was going. At the end of the day, we managed to have about 300 customers that had lost our service, either broadband or voice or both. And so we're working very, very hard to get those services up as quickly as we possibly can. The first thing we're going to do, we have kind of a combination of aerial and buried facilities in the area. It's very difficult to prevent the loss of some of the aerial facilities that are out there. You can't really cover them up. So we do have some burn fiber, burn cable, and then the little green boxes that you see kind of along the side, the smaller green boxes, there's no way we can get in there ahead of the fire fast enough to possibly protect all of those. So we do have some of those that are burnt, and certainly some of the aerial lines that went into your homes got burnt as well. So we have kind of a combination of efforts that we have to do. We also have some joint use facilities there where our lines go to the same place that the power lines do. So we can't even get up in to put those in until the power is cleared and the danger of the power is removed. So as soon as that gets done, then we can go in right after and restore service. So our next steps then are to try to give everybody temporary service as fast as we possibly can. I believe we're down to 3 customers who don't have voice services right now, and we've got probably about 100 customers right now without broadband, and I know you want the broadband worse because you've got to get all this information online, and we are working as hard as we can to get that in as quickly as we can. I expect that we'll have all our broadband services restored by Sunday or Monday at the very latest. I'm hoping earlier, but you never know what can go wrong in these situations, but we are working very hard to have that done in the next few days. I do have several team members here tonight. I want to talk a little bit about fees and billing. I have no idea what's up here, but for fees and billing, we're doing several things. We immediately invoked free call forwarding so that you can get your calls on another number or send them to a friend's house as soon as we heard about the evacuations. And that is free. You can still have that if you still need it. We're certainly willing to get that set up for you quickly. We also have provided free broadband and voice at the Baptist Church for people to use if you need something until we can get your service restored. Additionally, we are waiving any equipment charges. If modems got burned or a set-top box got burned, any of those kinds of things, we'll of course waive those charges. The other thing we're doing is we are seeing a lot of people there that are putting up tents, maybe campers, trailers. We are more than willing to come in at no charge and reconnect your service to that tent, that trailer, whatever temporary lodging you might have on your land. So let us know if you want us to do that. I do have several team members here tonight, and they're going to be standing kind of in the back of the room here. I want you to stand up real quick if you could. They are here, they're available 24/7 as I am to help with anything we can as far as your communications need. Tom Harper has the crews, all the people that you see that say Polly and all those big trucks that are out there putting up the cable, splicing the fiber. Sandy Berkenfeld in the middle there is the service delivery director for Colorado Springs and all the surrounding areas. And then Jason Shelton is here. He's the area operations manager for Black Forest and the Monument area in Colorado Springs. So we're all here to help. We'll be in the back of the room to answer any specific questions you might have tonight. And with that, I just thank you for your time, and we'll be here to answer any other questions you might have this evening.
All right, so folks, I want to reiterate, we're going to go ahead and open up a question and answer session. What we'll do, we've got a lot of our experts right up here, some of them are out in the audience, and when we get a question to our agency representatives, if it's a question that is for you, just jump up and I'll hand you a mic. Thank you, Josiah. I've got another mic. Sean has a mic, outstanding. And we'll have, if it's your question, jump in and we'll get that answered. We will get a mic to you, so we'll begin with hands going up. We also have index cards. And folks, if we don't get to every question tonight, please write that in and we will absolutely get back to you with that information. If we don't have an answer tonight, we're going to figure it out and we'll get back to you. So we'll kick this off. Let me reiterate that when you leave, we have accumulated a great deal of information for you to take with you. And we have the bags. We don't have very many. This is what we've been able to start with. But please go ahead and grab some of those resources. All right, first question, and Sean, it looks like you've got a mic back there. Oh, okay, right here.
That's one, two. My name is Richard Conto. I can't speak real well right now, so if you can crank this mic up, it might help. I have a whole series of questions. I think many people will be interested in hearing the answer. Kathy Andrews said the word debris permit. Where do I get a debris permit? I have a lot more questions, so be quick.
You can get it online at pprdt.org.
Okay.
Failed. Tried many times to get it online. It does not work.
Try again.
And we understand that it did work. However, it does work now. So if you go to our website, and let me just tell you a few things. In the upper left-hand corner above the picture, it says create an account. And so you go in and you create an account by answering the questions that are very simple. And then once you create an account, you can log on, you enter your property address, and then you can start pulling permits for meter sets, demolition, and so forth. And that's on our website right now.
Is the debris permit different than the demolition permit?
The debris and demolition are synonymous.
Thank you.
And the cost is $30, I was asked up here.
So we gotta pay.
So it's $30 flat rate.
Okay, so if I,
I'm sorry.
That's not true. That is supposed to be that it's been discontinued as of yesterday, I believe. We are no longer requiring the permit for debris.
Well,
Yellow sheet says
Somebody's wrong there.
okay.
a yellow sheet.
I think what we probably need to go back to, which we were going to start with, Commissioner Lincoln, is again, with some of the decisions that regional building had made in terms of what didn't require a demolition permit anymore. I think that's a change that we should probably address. Don't you think? Okay. So essentially, night before last night, regional building held a meeting to look at how to simplify this for your community. So for those of you that have residential homes, or those of you that, and again, I'm learning this language with you, buildings such as outbuildings, that would be like garages, barns, sheds. Those items are not going to need that demolition permit anymore. It's just the homes.
okay.
Does that clarify any? Sure, and what is it, how, because again, please here, as we were trying to create this and get it honed in, if there is something I need to clarify, we'll do that for you. How are you reading it?
It says, a state-issued demolition permit is not required to remove the action, buildings, and parts.
Right, there is no, yes, you don't have to have a debris permit. This is a demolition permit.
State.
From the state.
State
From the state.
We were saying there was some demo, and we were just saying,
How can we go through?
Can I break in for a second here? I might be able to answer that question.
Sure.
My name is Laura Shumpert. I'm with the Air Pollution Control Division, the Indoor Environment Program, and I am the supervisor of the Asbestos and Indoor Air Quality Unit. In most cases, the state requires a demolition permit for any structure that comes down in Colorado. But at this time, for the people who have been affected by the Black Forest burns and other wildfires, we have waived that requirement to obtain a state demolition permit. But that is separate from a county demolition permit.
So I guess what I think I'm hearing is that the struggle is the how to get through the steps to get started. Is that?
well, the first case that we have a big mess.
And here, can we get you a microphone? Just.
So my understanding is the first thing we need to do is get the debris out. And debris has different names. There's wood, there's metal, there's miscellaneous debris, there's concrete, there's all of that. My question is, because I was told this afternoon that the county 2 days ago required a $34 permit for debris removal, but that has been waived. The debris removal permit for $34 has been waived. That's information that's out there today. Is that still valid?
And I'm going to have to ask Regional because again, I know this sounds very bureaucratic, but that is not the health department. So let's get Bob involved to answer that, and then sir, we will go right back to you.
The debris/demolition permit is not required for outbuildings.
Not required for
Right, and actually the correct term in building code, and I'm not trying to bore you, but it's called accessory use buildings. So detached garages, sheds, storage buildings, agricultural buildings will not require a debris, fire debris demolition permit. On your house, your structure, then that requires the debris permit removal. And that you have to pay for.
Is that the $34?
And that one is $34.
So what do we have?
I have a question for you. You said there was no charge for hooking up utilities. They wouldn't hook mine up, but I've already paid you $34. In addition to that, I called your office. I have an app destroyed. I had to get another permit for that. 2 permits. You just said there was no charge.
What I meant
I've already paid it.
Okay, what I meant to say is there's no charge for our inspector to come out to do a first-time consultation. The first-time consultation to let the utility people know whether it's safe to energize or not energize is free. If repairs have to be made to bring it up to code, then yes, a permit must be pulled, and then we do normal inspections, and when it complies with code, then we send in the meter set either to the electrical or the gas division, and then you get your utilities energized.
So that doesn't answer my question. I was still charged for 2 separate permits, one for an outbuilding and one for getting my utilities.
Okay, sir, I'll be over here, and if you come and give me the information, we'll get it straightened out for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to jump in with something that we are really working on to try to help resolve, and that is that you're dealing with multiple agencies. That's really frustrating. It's frustrating to us, and we know it's 100,000 times more frustrating to you. You're dealing with utilities, which is not county. You're dealing with regional building, which is regional. It's not actually a county entity. And you're dealing with county land use. And we're trying to make all of these things speak to one another very, very, very easily. So we're working on this. In fact, as to the permit fees and things like that, we're working on that next week. We're having a meeting. We're going to discuss that and make decisions on those fees. And so we're trying to make all of these different agencies speak more easily as you're trying to deal with this, because good heavens, you're trying to deal with all these different things, and who do I call next? And wait a minute, that's this guy over here and this guy over here, so we're working on trying to make this easier. So we'll do our very best. Some of this is fluid because, as I said, the county is, as we're speaking, enacting suspension of a number of different things within our own code, as an example.
My question has to do with sifting. I've heard that you need to wet the ashes. Well, how do you sift wet ashes? So like we're going to sift, do we wet them or not? But is there a danger in not wetting them? Isn't that why we're wearing masks?
Really, you've got 2 issues there. One is when you are sifting through items, you're trying to find some things, obviously, that are of sentimental value. That's usually what people are doing this for. And so the mask, the N95 mask, is what's there to help protect you and possibly inhaling some of those particles at the time that you're doing that. The wetting is part of the process of when you dispose of that ash. And so that's why we'll make ourselves available to answer some of these questions for you, because the mask is to protect you while you're looking for, and we've heard some amazing stories of people that have found things that have been in their families for generations, watches or jewelry. But you want to wear that N95 mask because what I can't tell you is what is or isn't in the ash, but it could be things that are bad for your lungs. And so those masks are designed to be changed out. For example, if you're going to be out there sifting all day, you're going to want to change that out probably 3 times. That's to help protect you. But it's when you package it up to be taking it to the landfill the wetting it down is what helps keep it from pluming, and so you package it up. We will have a link on our webpage that really shows what this looks like, but it's on a very large scale. It's on a contract size scale, not necessarily just on the individual personal level scale.
I've got one here that kind of goes to that. So Waste Management provides roll-offs with liners. Are we required separate bags for ash if it's in the liner?
No, the answer is no.
And then this is a common question. How can we wet the ash when we have no utilities on site? It's a to the extent possible.
We had an extensive conversation about this just 2 nights ago. I'm going to tell you, it's best practice. Do I know that you're sitting out there and you're not having the regular access to water? I know that's happening right now. So again, we're looking for what is best practice now. For those of you that have hired contractors that are doing this for you, they are very accustomed to bringing in and handling all that for you. I think the questions that get very complex is we have very different scenarios for different families. Some families aren't going to use contractors, maybe trying to do it themselves. We may have families that unfortunately may not have insurance, and so that offers a whole other challenge on resources and being able to accomplish. So we're trying to get as much information as to how is it best for your own personal health protection and for the environment. But again, we'll make ourselves available to answer one-on-one too.
Okay, we got a, oh, who's next? Okay, sir.
2 questions. One with regards to testing a well, second with regards to asbestos. We need power to test a well. For those of us who may not have power for weeks, will the free well test still be available to us?
Absolutely. The answer is yes, because we know that very scenario is happening, but when you get an individual in there that's going to look at that well for you, they're also very accustomed to pulling a sample, but you will have the ability to have that test done by us. Absolutely.
Thank you. And with regards to asbestos, I have an older structure, probably the first part of the house was built around 1950. How do I identify what materials are likely to have asbestos in my structure?
Do we have an expert from state that would like to answer that? Yeah,
Okay. If you have building materials that are still intact, you can get them sampled by a certified asbestos building inspector. But what we're looking for, not only for asbestos, but as everybody said a number of times, there's a lot of different materials that could be in this ash and debris. We want to get this material wet so that whatever's in there is not going to become airborne. We want to get it packaged up as quickly as possible and removed. So again, if you have individual materials that you'd like to have tested, I can certainly get you information on how to contact a certified asbestos building inspector, but we're not actually asking you to go out and sample ash and debris. We're saying wet it down, package it up, and take it to one of the landfills that can accept it.
I just want to remind everyone, when you write down your questions, please make sure to put your name and phone number, because if we don't get to it tonight, we absolutely will get back to you. Okay, we've got kind of a follow-up here on the testing. Do you do water tests on Saturdays or only on weekdays? Are you closed on July 4th at the Disaster Recovery Center? That answer is yes. We will be closing on July 4th for all the staff that's been over there. And can you answer the water tests on Saturdays or only weekdays?
we accept water testing during the weekdays. Now, we do have the ability to read on Saturdays, but right now, we are really trying to keep within the Monday through Friday. I have 4 staff in our public health laboratory, and so please just work with us and try to handle that during the weekdays. I would really appreciate that.
Okay, I think I'm maybe on next here. I'm going to jump in anyway. Okay, I have a question regarding the slurry that was dropped to fight the fire. I've been reading in some of the literature I picked up that when it gets wet, the water that runs through the slurry contains ammonia that can hurt pads on dogs and cats' feet. I've been told you might have to put little booties on your dogs if you have slurry on your property.
Test.
Okay. What I want to know is from a horse owner perspective. Okay, the horses, they lay down in the dirt, they roll around in the dirt. What hazards does that slurry contaminated dirt present to horses? I've had one person tell me that you need to have your topsoil removed and new dirt brought in before the property is safe again to put horses on.
I'm going to tell you, I actually don't know the answer to that question, and I'll have to shoot that up to individuals. We do have state veterinarians at the state health department, and I'm more than happy to get that question up to them and get that back to you. If I can get a card with that question.
I've actually wrote it on the log sheet, the sheet that came around.
Great, because I will absolutely. We do have.
But I think there's a lot of horse owners. We need to know what do we need to do to make our property safe.
I think it's a great question. We don't have a local health department veterinarian, but there is a state level one, and I'll ask that for you.
Okay.
Do you have an email attached to the?
I do.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Your first name is?
Lisa.
Lisa, I really don't forget people, so I'll do that.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Okay. Can I do it? Okay. Are we going to be allowed to place an RV on our property until our homes are rebuilt? If so, is there a time limit? The answer is yes, you can have it on your property.
Market Park Development Services, the county commissioners have directed us to ensure that that is allowed. We currently have a form, a no-cost form, that we'd like to keep track of the RVs because they're not usually a good living arrangement for multiple years, especially as we go into fall and winter. So we're going to work with the building department relative to the demolition permits to see what people demolish and start to check on RVs that are there. It's a no cost. Yes, you can do it. Many people have already done it. I would encourage you, if you have covenants on your property, to check with your homeowners association. They may not allow it. That's not the county's decision.
Okay, and a couple of questions here regarding FEMA. FEMA was in the area this week doing assessments on these cards. And I've got questions about when funds might be available to those who have no insurance or any kind of assistance whatsoever from FEMA. What I can tell you with FEMA is that we don't have the results, the final results of the assessment yet. I can't give you a time exactly. They've just been here, and that's all we know. So we are working with them as closely as we can, but they have not given us any information yet. As soon as we get information about FEMA, we will get that pushed out to you. I wish I had better news there, but we just don't have any information yet on FEMA's response.
This might be a little in the future, but we're kind of looking over possible house plans. And I was wondering if we can upgrade our home when we're rebuilding, either like from a mobile home to a modular or to a stick built, if it's within the septic system size, and can we increase the square footage if it's within the septic system.
Okay, that's a three-person answer.
That was a three-part.
Yeah, because it actually helps dovetail, I think, with another similar question.
That was a three-part question. You may have a mobile home now, or did have, and want to upgrade. First part of the question is, mobile homes in most of Black Forest can be replaced with another mobile home as long as it is a post-1976 mobile home. Both the zoning code and the building code allow those post-76 mobile homes, or the building code, I think, has a provision for certification of a pre-76 home. If you had a mobile home, the second part of your question is, could I replace that with a modular? And the answer would be presumably yes. There are, as we know, many parcels in Black Forest that do not meet 5-acre zoning requirement, which results in questions that come up relative to well and septic. We're working with the health department to try to resolve most of those issues, and we've matched substandard or smaller sized parcels to houses or parcels that burn. Some zoning in the Black Forest, there are a few places does not allow mobile homes. The Board of County Commissioners has asked us to go through a process next Tuesday to try to suspend that for those locations that mobile homes are not allowed by zoning. Modular homes are the same as, in our eyes, when zoning as a site-built home. So they are allowed to go in. There is a site plan process, a building permit process, and now I'll hand it to the health department for the septic permit process.
Okay, the septic permit process, really what, I think your question was more along the lines of living space increases. But what you really need to keep in mind is what drives the size of both the septic tank and the soil treatment area is the number of bedrooms. So if you come in with the same or less bedrooms than you had originally, then you can hook right to it and continue to use that system, provided it's still in working condition. And that'll all come through in the building permit process. It triggers an inspection on our part that basically just confirms the evaluation from a septic system installer. If you want to increase the number of bedrooms, depending on what you had originally installed, there may be the need to either increase the size of the septic tank or the leach field or both. And at that point, then for reasons on just future use, if it was to be sold down the line, then it would have to be brought up to whatever's required for that number of bedrooms. Did I answer your question? Okay, yes, this is in cursive. Can you please address if we had a septic cleanout that melts, how does that affect the septic? How should that get replaced? Most in the burn areas where inspection ports that have been required since 1995 and cleanouts that have been extended above grade from the house to the tank that are installed, depending on the length of the run. Most of those are extended PVC pipes that have melted or are structurally not sound anymore. There is no permit fee to replace any of those. Septic lids that might become distorted if they were at grade or above does not require a permit from our department to replace that kind of pieces of equipment. We have had questions about, has the heat bothered or distorted what we've seen since 1987 in most typical leach fields, and those are those chambers that have been installed. And we've had some as shallow as 8 inches. Just as testing, we've had them uncovered and found that the fire moved through so fast over the top of them that those are not being found to be distorted right now and are still functional. So, but if you really want a good answer, make sure you have a licensed installer check them out.
Michael, you've got the microphone. You can repeat the question. Can you describe viable as
Well, I'm going to go ahead and interrupt here. With the confusion tonight as to where this was, are you guys going to, for the public meetings, have a replay online someplace? I mean, we've already had one that, none of the news coverage wants to replay anything because it's no longer news, so I looked to the county for that type of...
Nancy, we're going to put this on our YouTube, are we not?
Yes.
Thank you.
County's YouTube, you bet.
And at the back.
I think I heard that we're trying to figure out how to get bigger timber out of the forest. I mean, we've got 24, 36-inch trees that aren't going to slash homes apparently. Do we have a method, a service where we can get these things off property and out? Because I have some that endanger my building site, that kind of stuff. And I guess the second part to that question is a tree question.
Okay, I'll answer that. Len and myself are in the process of working with some larger timber industry representatives to work out some ways where we can keep the green mulch going to the slash mulch site so that we can get rid of the mulch after it's made. Have the black stuff taken to a larger operation, which is in the process of being discussed at this point. And the smaller companies, including his, can pick up trees that are cut to adequate length, that are uniform, so we can load them on trailers and take them up to the mill and then bring them back. So talk to me about that afterwards, and I can give you more information. Okay, that's just getting started. There'll probably be other mills getting set up and other operators. We want to try to salvage as much of the usable saw timber as we can and not just turn it all into firewood and chips.
Okay, second part of the question, three questions. So,
Can you hold that up?
we've been contacting as private individuals, trying to figure out where to get trees. As private individuals, everybody says, go talk to you guys, and you guys will coordinate this. Because they won't talk to us, even if there's 50 of us, they won't talk to us because we're not state, federal, or county.
What kind of trees are you trying to get, and how big, and when? And
Well, when depends on how we figure out how to pay for them apparently, and if that's government bureaucracy, that'll be 3 to 5 years from now. I had ponderosas on my property, and I'd like to replace some of them.
well, I guess you could use your insurance money for some of the replacement,
No,
but I wouldn't try to plant anything now.
No, I
because of
understand that. This is future, and the guys up in the Mount Shasta area, for federal money, they're still waiting. So it apparently will not be a now thing.
Well, I don't think we have any idea how much federal help we're going to get that. FEMA's still doing its thing, so I think you have to wait for the answer. Is that right?
We certainly don't have the answer right now as it relates to the Black Forest fire. So that is something that we haven't gotten to yet as to how we will acquire trees. I guarantee you that we will be addressing that. But you're right, I don't have an answer for it yet. There has been federal money that has come in for Waldo and some other areas, and so it is possible. We'll just keep working on that. Now, we do have another tree question. We're kind of staying in a category. I have a ponderosa pine with pink, quote, killer tree tape around it. Who placed it there? Is it insect infested? What needs to be done about it?
I'm sure there was one of my guys that put it there. We contract with some of the HOAs down in Black Forest to go in. They pay us to go in and mark all the mountain pine beetle trees. And that's what the pink tape is. What you need to do is it needs to be cut down and it needs to be taken to the mulch site. Or taken out of the Black Forest where there's no ponderosa pine. Now, depending on what it looks like, if it got burned really bad, it may be a moot point. But I suppose if the ribbon's still on it, it could have got burned too bad.
Thank you.
I have a comment for everybody here. First of all, I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry. And when the adjuster comes out to take a look at your loss, that person represents the insurance carrier. They're not necessarily your friend. Under Colorado law, you're entitled to have your own adjuster assess your damages. And I strongly recommend if your house was a total loss or if you think you have even a hint of smoke damage, that you look into someone who represents you rather than someone who works for your carrier. My question is for regional building. Actually, it's a two-part question. Something was said just a moment ago about people being allowed to put campers or trailers on their property. I just took supplies and tools up to a friend of mine whose motorhome was burned up in the fire. He's in a tent. There's a rumor going around that regional building wants to come out and kick him out. Are people going to be allowed to stay in tents? That's the first part of my question. Or zoning people, whoever it would be.
Mark, you're on that.
The question was, can people stay in tents? I guess technically the answer is yes, because you can camp on their own property.
Good deal. Okay, good to know. That probably affects a lot of people. Second.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just going to dovetail related to the tent. May we place the porta potty on the property? The answer is yes, but I would certainly recommend you get it serviced. If so, who do we call to get one? There are lots of vendors actually out there, and so maybe whoever this question came from, grab me, and I had to try to learn some of this for you really quick.
Okay, and the second part of the question was directly for regional building. If the state is willing to waive the fees on these permits, why isn't regional building willing to do the same?
waive the fees on which buildings, sir?
The demolition permits?
Well, again, on the demolition permits for outbuildings, there aren't going to be any demolition.
That's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking
Okay.
about the demolition permits you're charging fees on.
So you're talking about the demolition permit for the house. The demolition permit for the house is to pay for the inspector to come out, because when you start removing the debris from the house and you leave an open hole, it becomes a construction site. It needs to then comply with safety regulations, particularly OSHA. We need to make sure that the debris is completely removed, the scope of work is completed, and then
My question was far simpler than that. I just want to know why you're not willing to waive the fees as the state is.
because we are a fee-based enterprise. We receive no taxpayer dollars, and we're paying for our inspector to go out and perform an inspection.
I have a question that's related to what you were just saying. I've had two builders recommend, even though you sound like you're generally in a hurry for us to clean up the debris, two builders have recommended that I not do that until I'm ready to rebuild, because it will leave a hole in the ground, and I would probably have to fill that in with some sort of soil to avoid liability, and then the builder wouldn't know what kind of ground he was working on.
Again, the way we treated it in Marble Canyon and the way we'll treat it in the Black Forest burn area is that if you want to just get a debris, ash, fire debris permit and leave your foundation there, that's fine. You just need to make sure you protect it so it isn't a public nuisance and fall protection, and you can leave it there for a reasonable amount of time. Some people elect to go ahead and have the foundation torn out. That doesn't mean you have to bring the backfill in. You can slope down the sides and kind of create a swell in there, and then go about your time until you decide what you want to do with the property, whether you're going to rebuild or not. We're not going to require you to take out the foundation, put backfill into the natural grade, and then take it out again when the foundation's there.
I would add that on the hurry-up side, again, the Board of County Commissioners had a work session this week. No formal action is ever taken in a work session, but we will vote on all those things on Tuesday. We all gave direction to our staff, and we were looking at a 1-year period of time before anybody would consider any kind of debris as a rubbish issue. So you've got a year minimally to be able to remove that. As has been articulated, there may be good reasons to do that prior to that, but that's you're not going to have to worry about that for at least a year. That doesn't mean start, a year from now, but because it just might be harder to do. A quick question, because this doesn't have a name on it, so I want to follow this up. We saw a couple of trees that look like they have fresh post-fire beetle borers or something at the base of the tree. Is this possible, or what might that be?
Certainly possible. Probably turpentine beetle would be my guess, maybe lips beetle. Depending on how big the holes are, they could be wood borers going into the trees already if the tree's ready to get. So at this point, I wouldn't worry about it. There's a little bit of mountain pine beetle around the Black Forest, but it's not bad. There's pockets here and there. So if we're looking at something, a big outbreak of mountain pine beetle, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Thank you, and I want to make a quick note. Someone had asked, we've had a number of people asking about vendors. At the regional building website, there is a list of contractors, those contractors that are licensed in this area. Am I correct? Okay. So you can go to the regional building website to see a list of licensed contractors locally. And I think, are there some that worked in Waldo that have been vetted in some way, or are they just licensed? Okay.
And we also have the Better Business Bureau.
That's correct. We also have that link to the Better Business Bureau, because of course in Waldo there were a number of contractors who were vetted through the Better Business Bureau. In terms of the county, we will not enter into any kind of private transaction like that to tell you who to go contract with in the private sector. Of course, that is your decision to make. If we can provide information to you, experience that we've had, certain experience through regional building, we can try to do that, and of course there's the Better Business Bureau. But whoever you choose as a contractor, that's your private transaction, and the county will not present you with vendors to go out and go after or anything like that. That's a transaction that you need to do, and we'll try to do our best to vet those with partners. Sir?
Hi, my name is Master Sergeant Johnson, U.S. Army. I'm going to make a suggestion here because I was at the Tuesday meeting and tonight's meeting, obviously, there's going to be more meetings. To help with the recovery process and all the questions that are being turned in, because I know that there's questions being turned in on paper there as well as being asked out here. And what would really be beneficial to a lot of these people is to get a master list of email addresses so that you can put your Q&As out there on the web and they are able to go and see answers to their questions in black and white. That would be very helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's exactly where we're trying to collect that email data. And I want to emphasize again, we do not give that to anybody. That's so that we can push good information out to you that will help you with this. So if you haven't signed up via email, there are still sign-up sheets. You can go to the Disaster Assistance Center. I want to make a note. I know we're kind of starting to wind things up. The Disaster Assistance Center will begin to wind down and may very likely end here in terms of being out of the Classical Academy, possibly by next weekend. We're just kind of tracking the numbers, the folks coming in, and eventually we will be closing that down. That doesn't mean that the services are no longer available. It just means that having them centralized in that Disaster Assistance Center will come to an end. I also want to announce, and we'll take some more questions before other folks leave. In the lower level of Borders Bookstore at Chapel Hills, professionally packaged boxes of the following are available: food and water, debris removal items, bedding, clothing, diapers, detergent, shovels, rakes, etc. These have been provided by the Church of Christ, and you can go in 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week, now through July 21st. So that's an announcement for you for some resources. I would also note that Mountain Springs Church right here, you saw that there's Samaritan's First station in the parking lot. They are helping folks going through your property, debris removal. There is also clothing distribution going on over in the Summit Center, which is the building right across the parking lot, and the Helping Hands food pantry. So there are a lot of people here to assist you as well. Next question.
It's actually just FYI. And remember, we are open at the Assistance Center tomorrow, which is Saturday, so we will be open tomorrow. We just want to point that out. And then Small Business Development of SBA is at the R&R Coffee, 9 to 4 every day.
This is for a retail building. There's a number of old buildings that we have in the forest that have no foundation. You talked about a hole in the ground requiring a debris permit. So those units that we don't have a foundation, they require debris permits.
Okay, so the older building does not have a foundation.
Right.
Okay, it's built like, if I may use the term, a pole barn.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of like
that's
that.
gotta be.
Yeah, okay. And so it's burned to the ground or not burned to the ground?
Burned to the ground.
But just go ahead and take the debris away, no permit. And we're assuming that in a pole barn type construction, you might have a foot or a foot and a half diameter hole. We obviously aren't going to want to follow it in. Just take care of it that way.
Thank you.
While you're still here, you can read this. You can just read.
I have several standing walls and a chimney. How can I determine if I am not required to demo them? Did you receive a placard on your door? Okay. All right. Then, if there was no door, then we're assuming that it's what we classified as destroyed. So it's a partially standing structure which will require a wrecking permit to remove the standing structure and the foundation if you get to the point where you need to. Okay, the question is, how do you need to determine if your foundation needs to be removed or not? So let me just quickly go through the three different scenarios that we have. Number one is,
if we have plans on file and you want to build your same house, and you get a structural engineer to verify that your foundation is of the strength necessary, then you can go ahead and rebuild that house to that plan and use that foundation. The other one is, if you have your plans and you want to build that house, but your foundation isn't structurally sound, and again, that's determined by a Colorado state licensed engineer, then you put in a new foundation and then you rebuild that house. The third option is that you're going to build a house that was never there before. And there's two types of those houses. One is a site-specific, or what people might refer to as a custom home. And the other one is a home that is already approved by builders, which is called a master plan. A master plan doesn't need to be reviewed again. It's very quick to get through the system because the house has already been examined and been approved to build throughout the county. So it's just a matter of getting the plot plan in and making sure that the setbacks and the lot coverage and everything else is all right. Again, it's on our website, and I invite you to go there. Quick answer here. Is it required to tie into the grid in order to receive a certificate of occupancy on a real rebuild? What grid are we talking about? Electrical? That person here? Okay. The answer to it, if it's electrical or gas or water or sewer, is that you don't have to go to a public facility. You can have a private facility. So if it's a wind generator or solar panels, or you use propane, that's all fine. That's all off the grid, and you may use that to get a certificate of occupancy.
One more quick question right here, because I know this has come up, and then we're going to go right to you.
There's a question about property value changes, and based upon the discussion with the assessor's office, what the assessor will do is he will prorate your property taxes based upon the date that your home was damaged or destroyed. And so your property taxes for this year will be prorated through the month of June to the date that your property was destroyed or was damaged. Property value changes, will they go up or down? No. Based upon the date that your property was damaged or destroyed, your property values will go down, and the assessor's office will work with you on that. Will the taxes go up without having a dwelling on the property due to the fire? After 2 years, you will have increased taxes based on that property if there is no dwelling place on that property. It puts you in a different property value category. So your taxes will go up after a 2-year period of time. Final question is, debris cleanup for outbuildings has been waived, and you are eligible to get a reimbursement. And you can see Bob here at RBD, and he'll be glad to give you a reimbursement.
Not tonight.
No chance for tonight.
My name is Barbara Hoffman. Let's see, last week they had dumpsters there for the people that their house was standing in the refrigerator and the freezers. Well, we couldn't touch anything until the insurance man came, and now we have a freezer that has maggots. And the dumpsters were there so short of a time. It was just a couple of days. Are we going to bring dumpsters again?
We are talking about that right now, about bringing dumpsters in on a longer term basis. Kathy, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, we had the dumpsters there for a week. We had them Monday through Saturday of last week, and we certainly have gotten some requests, so we will be providing some dumpsters. These dumpsters have to be monitored. This is a FEMA requirement, and so we're looking at doing one or two more days of dumpsters for sure. In the next week, and we will probably be doing it at the Section 16, the Black Forest Section 16 site. But certainly watch our website. We certainly will put out a press release on that for sure as well.
Is there another way to get rid of them?
The problem was the dumpsters were there before we were even allowed to go back to our house. Okay? So, okay, thank you.
Mine is more of a comment. We need to verify not only to the people in the room and everybody else who have left, there's a discrepancy on the slash program. I was by there today and I was told 3 times in this week to take burnt forced floor and burnt logs to the slash program. There's two things wrong with that. One, the slash program is not expecting that, so there's a discrepancy with what we're being told. We need to get the correct information out there from the disaster site along the phone lines. And two, do we really want to take what is still coming in spot fires? We've had spot fires on my property and property next to me up north, and we do not want to cause another fire in the forest. So we need to really get this out to people, because I've been told 3 times, a lot of people's left, and a lot of people haven't got that far yet, and I, for one, do not want to see us reignite another fire in the middle of the woods that has not burned. So I think we really need to think about that and get the answers to people. Because everybody here is secondary, of course, for everybody who's lost their home, but for everyone else who's doing the cleanup, we need an answer to that. And then I have one more question for Forest Service. For us who are cleaning up the forest floor, we have what has been dormant needles underneath the burn area. Do we need to rake those and get them completely off the forest floor to mitigate sparks creating more fires, or what do we do with that?
Do you have a house? Is it around the structures?
It's a couple hundred feet away.
Okay, I would recommend, what we recommend for defensible space is you go 30 to 40 feet off of the structure, and yeah, I would rake a bunch of that stuff up. The thing, what's out in the woods, I wouldn't mess with. What you want to happen, I mean, it was an unfortunate event, but any of this stuff that's been burned over a little bit, you want it to get some rain on it so you could get the benefit of those nutrients going into the ground. So we don't want to take all that black stuff up.
So we just want to kind of do the gently raking of that to allow it in, water in?
Well, if you still have material on the ground, then you wouldn't need to rake it for the water to penetrate.
In some areas, there's mulch, not mulch, but the ground floor underneath, and it's been a fire hazard because we've had spot fires start. So I didn't know whether I need to take it out or leave it.
I would just leave it.
Okay, thank you.
Rich Venter from Swan Road. Mr. Croft said the purpose of the demolition permit is so we don't leave a hole in the ground. All I have right now is a hole in the ground. And if I don't do anything, I'll still have a hole in the ground. Our neighbors were robbed on Tuesday. There is metals and materials laying around in plain view on my debris. Without me excavating anything, I can remove a variety of these attractors to the looters. Do I need a demolition permit to just pick up all these metal materials, refrigerators, and things like that and take them away because it does not change the content, the depth, or the general debris in the basement and foundation that is there? In other words, I'm not changing that profile at all, but I'm trying to get rid of materials that are attracting looters. And I think we should all say looters will be shocked.
The answer to your question is if you just want to get rid of select materials, if I may use that term, then no, you do not need a demolition permit.
Hello. My name is Dwayne with Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, and I need to apologize because we were told after Tuesday night's meeting that permits for us to go clean people's property up was waived. Hearing tonight that was wrong, we're coming to apologize that that was wrong and we gave out misinformation. So, whatever that's worth, we're sorry. We'll still work on your place, go buy your permit, and we'll try to help you out.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Huge thank yous. Appreciate that.
Yes, I'm on one of these small parcels that's going to be a non-compliant, older parcel of property. Just wondering how long of a process it's going to be before we decide well, septic separations on these old properties to see if we can rebuild. I got road setback issues, lots of stuff from the house, the property we've had since '32, so it's not big enough to build on by current by any means.
those decisions are already essentially been given. The direction has been given to our staff. We'll simply ratify those this week. Mark, can you speak to that just a little bit in general?
There were, by our looking, over 100 properties that were damaged or destroyed that were substandard in size from current regulations. We're matching all the prior approvals that have been granted for those properties to try to make sure someone doesn't have to go through a new process. If you never went through that process, then there will have to be an analysis of distance between well and septic that we work with the health department to ensure before you can rebuild. We recognize that some of those houses also were closer to the property lines than currently allowed. The Board of Commissioners on Tuesday will consider some modifications for temporary suspension of that and adding in some new language to, I'm going to forget the exact words, to make it meet compliance as close as possible or practicable. And those are not the exact words, but recognizing that to go back in the same place is the desired option and can't always meet the 25-foot distances from property lines.
Or to the greatest extent possible.
Greatest extent possible.
Thank you. I was going to mention that. We like that language. To the greatest extent possible. All right. One more quick. Oh, thank you. I keep track of you guys. Sorry.
Barbara Johnson, I've got a couple of things. I'd like to thank the Samaritans First and the Southern Baptist for helping with all the cleanup. You guys are great. But there's a problem. We've got 40 people on a piece of property. There's no bathroom. Can the city, the county, somebody put a porta potty out there on their scheduled day to work to give them a place for a bathroom instead of drive 2 or 3 or 4 miles to the nearest porta potty?
I appreciate that question. Having worked with Samaritans First last weekend on some property with my kids, that we worked both days, and no porta potty. Well, I think one of the problems, and if anybody else wants to jump in on this, one of the problems is that they are working on a number of different properties throughout the Burn region. Both Samaritans First, Southern Baptists, and others. I don't know how we would really keep up with them, the movement of those groups, because some groups are 15 people, some are 20, 30, and they just have a number of them. Yeah, there are some out there, and they are telling all the volunteers, make sure you're ready to go for a few hours, because if you need to go, you're going to have to come back in. So I know that there are some out there. I will take it back. We'll talk about that and see if we can have some conversations to see if there's a better way that we can coordinate maybe the re-entry points. We'll take that back. I'll add that to my list. Okay. Sir,
yes, you've talked quite a bit about the quality of our wells in your aquifer. We all need to be concerned about that. The free well testing that you're providing, it's my understanding that that is a bacteria test. And it's up to our insurances to do a contaminant test on the aquifer, which is a real push and shove situation. Is that true? Is the water test just strictly a bacteria test?
I'm going to try and answer that. Our laboratory does have the ability to run a few other tests, and including nitrates and things like that. I'm not exactly sure what the constituents or the scan that you're talking about that the insurance company would want to see. Is it for metals or for things like that? That takes a more certified lab than what our lab could do. We're providing free test kits for, you're right, it's bacteriological tests, and it's
not the insurance asking for this, but I am concerned about what the contaminants that are in the aquifer, especially as time goes on.
Okay, now I understand the question, and that question has come up. And there's wellshed protection specialists at the state health department that I've been in touch with. They're already organizing to try and figure out which existing wells and possible monitoring wells might be necessary to see what kind of contamination we might have with the aquifer, because the majority of the wells are all going to the same spot, and it's been identified, and I know that there's interest in making sure that whatever contamination has occurred right up front is not something that's going to be prolonged. So it is being looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. I will tell you, we made a promise to the church that we'd be done by 9, so we're gonna take a few more questions. I'm gonna ask everybody on answering to try to be as brief as possible so that we can get several more in here, or a few more in at least. Very quickly, there's a note here. We'd like to send a thank you note to Rich Harvey. Do you have an address for him? We'll find that. I don't have it tonight. We'll find it and we'll get it out there on our website so that folks can send a message. And then anything that I still have up here outstanding that we haven't answered, as I said, we will get back with you. I'm going to come back here to Ahmad to answer a question that you've got, and then we'll come back down.
Good evening, folks. My name is Ahmad Karaki. I'm the Support Services Director for Paso County. This whole team here has been engaged since that fateful evening on Tuesday. What I would like to address is a couple of things. First, please don't feel that you have to remember or write down everything that was said here tonight as far as contact information. Some of you that have went through the Disaster Assistance Center, you gave us your email, you gave us your phone number. That's how we're communicating with everybody. So we have a large distribution list that we are communicating with you. I have one here from Mr. I won't say the name, not to embarrass anybody. Basically, that they have sent an email and didn't get a question. Here's what we have. If you go to the county main page, elpasoco.com, or just go to Google and search El Paso County, Colorado, the site is going to pop up. When you go to the main site, you're going to see in the bar BFF Assistance, Black Forest Fire Assistance. Click on that. It's going to take you to a page. That page has the contact information for the Disaster Assistance Center, the regional building. Most of the questions that you have are on there. There is also a number that you really want to remember this number, 444-8301. It's also on the site. You call that number, we have a call center, a bunch of folks are taking messages. Those messages for anything and everything that you need. They will help direct you to where you need to go and answer your questions, or get it to the right folks to get a hold of you so we can answer your questions. Again, also, if you need a face-to-face engagement, come up to the Disaster Assistance Center up here on the Classical Academy. Come in, get some water, sit down, get your questions answered, get a box to take home for your family. It has food and assistance stuff. This is not our hearts are broken at when we saw the fire and the way we were engaged, and we feel for you and we're here to support you. So sometimes it gets frustrating, and I understand, but come up there and visit with folks and use this information. And if you need anything else, just call that number, 444-8301, and we'll take care of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ahmad.
Rich Painter, Swan Road. Don't go away. I got this flyer for this meeting, and it said 6 p.m. This morning, I got an email from the system, because I'm registered. It said 6:30, and then a little while later, it said corrected email that I got, and nothing was changed about it, and it still said 6:30. So this thing and that email is disconnected.
Sir, I will tell you, I want to address that.
Hold, stop, just please listen. What we need, and we saw a lot of this tonight too, is disconnected information that is not correct. It is correct, this is wrong. And what we need is facts that are checked and documents that are sent out are properly vetted so that they are correct, so we don't have to keep going through all this dance all the time.
And so I'm going to address that. Number one thing is that we're not perfect. We had a 6 o'clock time set. No, that's not true. We had a 6:30 time set. And then we tried to change the location, which of course, as I said, Mountain Springs was kind enough to allow us to change this on very short notice. And thank goodness they did. And so when that changed, it went out on our website as 6 o'clock. Simply an error. And then we have noticed that the Gazette printed it at 6:30, so it was simply a 30-minute error. We did what we could to change that. We sent out a second email to make sure that everyone knew that it indeed was 6:30 and the location had changed. And in fact, you're right, it didn't change because the first email went out to let folks know the location had changed and it was 6:30, and we did it again to reiterate, so to make sure that everyone had the information. We have done everything we possibly can to bring together the facts and the information, and we will continue to do that. As we work through this, we will continue to learn things that are different, that we need to put together. Like I said, there are multiple agencies, and that is exactly what we will do. We will bring you the very best information we possibly can. And when we have an error, when we have a discrepancy, we will work to correct that. Maybe you had a question?
Yes. I have a property that had two homes on it. One was a trailer that was grandfathered in, and it burnt down. My tenant is now homeless, and I was wondering if they're going to be allowing that second house to be put back up. He's begging me to put it back on. I don't know what to do about that. Because it was grandfathered, and it's not supposed to go back.
Mark Gebhardt, and are you Marilyn? Okay, and I may have to call you back later. It depends on when that trailer was moved there. You won't be able to replace it with a pre-76 trailer. It will have to want to be comply with the building code. But the issue we'll have, and while I need to talk to you, is how do we know that grandfathering occurred? We'll have to do some research to find the record of when the homes were put there and how they were put there before I can give you a definitive answer.
Yeah, it was a 1964 trailer.
Okay, so it's been there since 64? And the house is older or been there since then too?
House in 1920.
Okay, and so off the top of my head, I would say if you're from 1 mile west of Black Forest going east, you're most likely grandfathered. If you're on the other side, you may not be, and that's why I have to research it. Okay. It's most likely because zoning first came in that area in 1965, and that's when grandfathering occurred.
You know, I want to comment about that, and Commissioner Blaine, you can jump in on this. We want to bring everybody back to whole. I mean, we can't go back and rebuild your house, and there are a lot of things that we can't do, but in terms of the zoning and the process to get you whole, man, we do not want to get in your way. We want to make it as simple as possible, which is why we have suspended a number of these things, which is why we put in language that if it's non-conforming, it was a legal non-conforming use, and you're bringing it back, you're building again, that we want you to try to come into conforming use, but to the greatest extent possible, because we realize there are very unique properties in Black Forest, and we do not want to get in the way of that. We want to bring you back to whole, so we're doing everything we can within our land development code to accomplish that. Is that?
And I want to echo that point, but also want to emphasize that, you know, our county staff is working very hard. And we are receiving a lot of help from a lot of agencies, and mistakes are going to happen. And when mistakes happen, I take responsibility for it. We will make sure that we fix those mistakes. But I want you to understand that our hearts are with you, and we are working around the clock to make sure that we do these things to make you whole. So I understand your frustration, but I ask that you be patient and understand that mistakes will happen. We will try to clarify those. Before I forget, I do want to go over the disaster assistance hours for next week. Monday through Wednesday, that's July 1st through July 3rd, we're going to have reduced hours. It's going to be open from 3 to 6 p.m. On Thursday, July 4th, it will be closed. And Friday and Saturday, July 5th and 6th, is going to be open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Sunday, it will be closed. So again, it's extremely important, if you have not gone through that Disaster Assistance Center, to go through that. And even if you have questions, still go through that. And the reason why we want you to go through that is we want to be able to track your concern so that we can provide the customer service that you deserve. That's the main thing. We are 100% committed to doing that, and we're going to continue to work hard for you. And if mistakes happen, send it my way. I take complete ownership of that, but we are going to fix it.
Folks, I want to say a huge thank you. We still have one more question.
Yes.
And we're going to grab that question. I want to say thank you for your time and for coming out this evening. Obviously, we want to get you the best information we possibly can. Our staff is working around the clock on this, and they have just done an extraordinary job. They had the Disaster Assistance Center stood up in 48 hours from the beginning of the fire. They've just done an extraordinary job. All of our partnerships are faith-based partnerships. Oh man, what would we do without them? Just tremendous. We want to be able to respond to you and help connect you to those agencies that you need. So we just really we want to be here and help you in the recovery. That's what Commissioner Glenn and I are committed to, and all of the other commissioners that are heading other subcommittees, and our staff. And we just want to help our community come back to whole. Sir?
Yes, first of all, my name's Harold Hager. Thank everybody here on panel tonight, you, Amy, Commissioner Glenn. I did submit a question, hoped it would be read. Just regarding a fire hydrant, is there any plan of extending any kind of water delivery system, at least along the main thoroughfares, in the, at least starting in the downtown area? I know of one fire hydrant across from the R&R Cafe. That's a private one. I believe it's Forest Glen. A lady by the name of Barbara is letting people fill containers there. And thanks to Barbara, because her association, landowners, are paying for the pumping and not the water, but the delivery system. And that's been very handy, especially those with horses and just any kind of needs for water. So the question specifically is, in the long master plan, is there anything in the near future for a water fire hydrant delivery system, which would also help with insurance rates?
Absolutely, it will. And one of the reasons that I've got it for follow-up is because we don't really have an answer for you yet. We've started to talk about that. We've talked a little bit about some temporary water, some on-site water delivery for, wetting of ashes and things like that, and what capability we might have to be able to do that. But I don't have an answer for you yet on that side of it. That's something that we've got to work through with the utilities, and that's in progress.
Okay, yeah, I was hoping to hear, for those of us who may be considering rebuilding, having a permanent installed infrastructure would be most beneficial. In case of this fire, perhaps not. But single dwelling, like it's allegedly started, this may have prevented it. Second question, if I may, the insurance guy appears to be gone. My concern is going forward that a lot of insurance carriers may look at the risks and pull out. Now, I know there's a national flood insurance program. Is there, any possibility of any people who live in the urban forest areas, us, Mount Shadows, that there'll be some sort of assurance? I will not rebuild if we don't have some sort of assurance that we can get insurance, even at an uplifted price. But it's got to be reasonable, and it's got to be available.
That's exactly why we're having two different insurance meetings to really try to get to this. There's some of that we're not going to be able to impact because those decisions made within those private companies, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to have a seat at the table on those. As to FEMA floodplains and FEMA changing the floodplain, that did not happen in Waldo. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe they changed any of the maps in Waldo. But we don't know what they'll do in the future. And like I said, they just came out this week, and we don't have a bear assessment, and we don't have any of the 4 points. None of those assessments have been done yet. We will be tracking that and getting that to you because you're absolutely right. Critical to your insurance and rebuilding, particularly if FEMA were to go and change those flood maps. So
I wasn't so concerned about the flood maps. I was just hoping that somebody somewhere would be looking forward that people will live in the urban forested areas, but only, I presume, under the condition that they will get some sort of insurance, be it state backup or federal backup, as is the flood insurance program.
I will ask to make sure that we specify that as a major point of interest for these insurance meetings and see if we can get anything from them ahead of time. I know that we've got a period of time to get rolling on this, but in terms of long-term planning, you've got to have some of those answers. To the best of our ability, we'll push them for answers.
Again, thank you and the staff at the Disaster Assistance Center. We went down, I think it was day 2. Very, very professional, very empathetic, and very helpful to us getting through this process. And I cannot say enough good about the Samaritan's Purse staff. They are just marvelous.
They are. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, folks, unless yes, please, Sean.
I just want to make one comment on calling out a young man here, Luke Varga, who was called in on his own time. He's 13 years old. He's the one that set up your slides tonight. So I just want to say thank you, Luke, for coming in last minute.